Well, this is Lazula at the Oklahoma Native Art. I'm gonna walk you through a few steps on working with sterling sheet, 16 gauge, fabricating a hand-tooled cuff bracelet. Would consider this a comfort fit, being how it's domed. The first step I would take is utilizing a sheet of 16 gauge sheet, pretty heavy gauge. 16 is pretty good thickness gauge. And first you'd take the sheet like this, and we'll go ahead and take the caliper and do your measurements. 6.5 inches is usually about what you need on that. If you'd like, you could basically get out one of your saw blades and measure and cut your sheet. You might find it easier to have the place of purchase of your silver sheet cut the pieces for you, saving a lot of time and getting you less grinding. And you know, if you're feeling sure about cutting straight lines, if you're not very good with the saw blade. After 13 years, I do whichever works. Next, I'd recommend you take your measurements to find your medium line. Usually digital calipers are pretty good, you know, for measuring your markings. You know, once you have your measurements, scoring the lines in your center line for where you'd like to do your hand tooling for the inside of the bracelet or the outside. This is going to be for hand tooling the inside before the welding is done. Before the welding is done, once I would score the lines, I'd recommend to not cause any marring or extra hours of machining the outside to end up with a fine finish. Is to take that sheet and I would recommend using some type of heavy tape for the back side, which when you stamp you'll not have to worry about marring and scarring on the back. So here we have that tape applied to that back side, and our lines marked. Once again, once you have that back regular just your painter's grade brown tape there to prevent movement of your piece on your steel block, which underneath your steel block I'd definitely recommend some type of heavy rubber to prevent, you know, movement of that piece. Is to apply maybe a double stick tape. Once that double stick tape's applied, I definitely recommend having your stamps selected your measurements, set out your markings centering the piece here, I'd also like to say you should find yourself some protection for your ears. You definitely acquire some of these at a welder shop or maybe a hardware store. It's vital to protect your ears, and you know, when using machines, tooling, even if you lose your stamp in the hammering process and it flies out of your hand, you know, I'd recommend wearing goggles if need be, using a heavy mallet, that being a steel forged hammer, for the right amount of pressure on your tooling, so it's you know, really tooled well. In the polishing process, you don't want to lose any details, so you want a heavy stamp. Expect a little bit of the stamp to show on the other side, not much, being as why we use a 16 gauge, and during the machining process most of this will be machined out. So here we go. This will be marking it with a, I mean, amongst your collections over the years, you can hand tool, you cut your own tools, your own stamps, or find them through other jewelers who retire, or those that expertise is creating toolings, hand stamp toolings. Well, I'm going to work with this one here, so I'm going to go ahead and start showing you some of the stamping, and be sure to put on this ear protection because it is quite loud. Here we also recommend right now, it's vital to get your sterling signature stamp in there while it's still in the flat stage. Well, at this point, you find your bracelet tooled, ready for forming. Before I modernize my shop a bit, you can actually go the older ways of with time constraints. We have to modernize our shop a bit. This is a forming tool I used to use to create cuff styles. Today I'd recommend, if you can, your budget allows, is what we have is a 20-ton Bonny Dunn hydraulic, manual hydraulic. This 20-ton by Bonny Dunn allows you to use forming dies, which on a magnet are easily set in there, so you can start forming your bracelet. I'd go ahead at this point and remove your tape from the other side of your bracelet. At times you do find you'd like to go to using just steel. I mean, they have great, you know, using a 20-ton you get great detail when you want to form using your dies and strikes and such. For this method on a cuff bracelet, to prevent more time from the marring of your metals and, you know, just saves you a lot of time, I'd definitely look into investing into a Bonny Dunn tool. And at this point, we'll go ahead and start forming the bracelet.